Dr. Elena Voss cursed as the sensitive equipment in her cramped lab aboard Helios 9 registered the anomaly for the fourth consecutive hour. She'd spent 3 years on this backwater research outpost, sifting through cosmic background radiation for evidence of ancient civilizations, and now her instruments were detecting something impossible, a signal with both perfect mathematical precision and organic, almost musical variations. "System error," muttered Calvex, the Thorian representative assigned to supervise human research initiatives. His crystalline features refracted the dim laboratory light into prismatic patterns across the metallic walls. "Reset your equipment, Dr. Voss. Humans often overlook calibration errors." Elena bit back a retort. The Galactic Concord had relegated humanity to scientific backwaters since Earth joined the 17-Species Alliance 70 years ago. Despite holding 3 doctorates in xenorchaeology, she was treated like an undergraduate by most non-human scientists. "It's not equipment failure," she insisted, pulling up comparison algorithms on her holographic display. "The signal exhibits non-random patterns consistent with engineered communication, but its age profile suggests it's over 100 million years old." Calvex's crystalline form stiffened, the Xorian equivalent of an eye roll. "Impossible. No civilization maintains technological continuity for such durations. I'll file your observation as an anomalous reading." 3 hours later, Elena's assistant Marcus collapsed mid-sentence, a thin trickle of blood seeping from his right ear. "Something's counting in my head," he whispered before convulsing. "Prime numbers, but wrong somehow. Evolved primes." His eyes rolled back as he began muttering precise mathematical sequences that Elena recognized from the signal pattern. The emergency medical pod diagnosed it as a severe neurological event, unlike anything in its database. While the Helios 9 physician struggled to stabilize Marcus, Elena's communication console lit up with emergency protocols. Similar cases were emerging globally, humans collapsing while reciting identical mathematical sequences. The Concord's dismissive attitude evaporated when 3 of their research vessels near Earth experienced catastrophic system failures after non-human crews reported hallucinations. Calvex returned to Elena's lab, his crystalline structure vibrating with uncharacteristic agitation. "The signal has been officially classified as Threat Category Omega," he announced, authorization codes flashing across Elena's terminal. "You now have access to restricted historical archives." The files unlocked before her contained fragmented records spanning millions of years, civilizations across 12 galaxies that had vanished after reporting similar signals. The Concord had classified these as mythological rather than historical events, dismissing them as cultural superstitions. "Why are only humans affected?" Elena demanded. Calvex's response chilled her. Advanced medical scans revealed dormant neural structures activating in human brains, architectures that appear artificially engineered and exist in no other species. They've been inside your DNA for millions of years, waiting. Outside her laboratory viewport, Elena watched as distant stars seemed to blink in patterns matching the signal's frequency. The void between them darkened unnaturally, as if something massive was blocking starlight. The terminal behind her chimed with new reports. Humans worldwide experiencing identical dreams of vast obsidian structures floating through primordial oceans Earth had never known. "What's happening to us?" she whispered. Calvex's crystalline form darkened to deep indigo, a color she'd never seen Xorian display before. "You're being called home, Dr. Voss, and may the cosmos help us all when you answer." The dreams began on the 3rd day after the signal's detection. Identical visions reported across continents and social strata. Children in Mumbai described the same vast obsidian structures that university professors in Santiago sketched upon waking. Floating monuments of impossible geometry, drifting through ancient oceans that geological records insisted had never existed on Earth. Elena stared at the global dream database, thousands of matching reports flooding in hourly. "This isn't possible," she whispered to herself in the emergency Concord bunker beneath Geneva. collective unconscious doesn't work across different cultures with this level of precision. More disturbing were the sudden bursts of inexplicable genius. A mechanic in Detroit built a quantum resonance device from spare car parts. A 12-year-old Kenyan girl constructed a functioning gravitational wave detector from discarded electronics and hand-drawn schematics that shouldn't have made sense to a child her age. "They're receiving information," observed Dr. Liang, the only other human scientist granted Omega clearance. "The signal isn't just activating dormant neural pathways, it's transmitting data." The Concord Supreme Council's emergency broadcast shattered centuries of diplomatic protocol. Never before had the Alien Alliance addressed humanity directly rather than through government channels. The High Minister of the Xorians appeared on every communication device simultaneously, her crystalline features arranged in what Elena recognized as an expression of barely contained terror. "What approaches Earth is not unknown to us," she began, voice modulated to express urgency that transcended species barriers. "Merely unbelieved. Our ancestors recorded these visitations as religious events, as mythology. We were incorrect." The broadcast cut to archaeological footage from dozens of worlds, civilizations reduced to molecular dust, planets with 1,000-kilometer impact craters, astronomical records of stars that had simply ceased to exist. "The void heralds," the High Minister continued, "emerge on a cycle measured in millions of years. No Concord species has encountered them directly, only the aftermath of their passage." Elena's terminal chimed with urgent notifications from archaeological colleagues worldwide. Cave paintings discovered on 6 continents, dating back 30,000 years, depicted identical obsidian vessels. Ancient pictographs matched the signal's mathematical patterns with impossible precision. In the White House Situation Room, the president watched as every electronic device simultaneously went dark before displaying a single message in perfect, unaccented English. "The instruments have awakened. The orchestra awaits its conductor." Most terrifying was the realization that struck Elena as reports flooded in. Every human on Earth had heard the message directly in their minds, in their native language, while the alien Concord representatives heard nothing at all. When 7 massive vessels of impossible blackness materialized simultaneously above Earth's major cities, they defied all known physics. Their surfaces absorbed light completely, creating perfect silhouettes against the sky, like holes torn in reality itself. "Why us?" Elena asked the Xorian diplomat as they watched the ships hover motionless above Geneva Lake. "Why target humans specifically?" The crystalline alien's reply was barely audible. "Because you were made for them, Dr. Voss. Everything about your species, your neural architecture, your creativity, your capacity for both harmony and discord, it was engineered for this moment." The largest vessel began descending toward the United Nations complex, its movement utterly silent. As it approached, Elena felt something stir within her mind. Ancient neural pathways awakening, responding to a call that predated humanity itself. "They're not invading," she realized with sudden, terrible clarity. "They're coming home." The Vienna Concert Hall disaster marked the first mass casualty event. 1,700 people attending a Mahler symphony began humming in perfect unison during the third movement, a harmonic pattern matching the signal's mathematical sequence. Security footage showed the audience rising simultaneously, eyes vacant, before the building imploded with impossible precision, as if reality itself had folded inward at carefully calculated points. No survivors, no bodies, only a perfect spherical absence where the building once stood. Military responses proved worse than futile. North Korean tactical missiles dissolved into constituent atoms before reaching the obsidian ships hovering over Pyongyang. American drone swarms attempting reconnaissance simply ceased transmitting as they approached the vessels over Washington, D.C. In a secured Concord facility beneath the Alps, Elena worked feverishly alongside reluctant alien scientists, monitoring test subjects exhibiting impossible abilities. Identical twins separated by continents demonstrated perfect sensory sharing, describing each other's surroundings with flawless accuracy. Elderly patients with advanced neurodegenerative conditions suddenly reversed their symptoms when working collectively on mathematical problems. Most disturbing were the children. Those born after the signal's arrival showed accelerated development, perceiving radio waves as visible colors and manipulating electromagnetic fields with simple hand gestures. "Tell me what you see," Elena asked 6-year-old Mira, who had been evacuated from Mumbai after collapsing in convulsions during a Herald flyover. The child tilted her head, eyes tracking invisible patterns in the air. "Music," she whispered, "but not for ears. The big dark ships are instruments too. They're waiting for someone to play them." Elena's breakthrough came with ancient genetic samples. Comparing human remains across 200,000 years of evolution revealed identical markers that had remained unchanged despite natural selection's relentless pressure. These sequences, she explained to the Concord Scientific Council, projected images highlighting identical genetic structures across millennia, shouldn't exist in nature. They've been artificially preserved despite disease, climate change, and radiation exposure. "We were designed," she concluded as the alien representatives shifted uncomfortably, "but not by nature." When Earth's combined military forces launched a desperate coordinated strike, every remaining nuclear weapon targeting the vessels simultaneously, the Herald simply redirected each missile to precisely 3 meters above its launch point. Then they paused, allowing humans exactly 5 seconds to witness what was coming before impact. As military command centers worldwide erupted in nuclear fire, a Herald emissary materialized in the UN Assembly Hall, a beam of shifting obsidian facets that distorted perception, its form seeming to fold into dimensions the human mind couldn't process. It ignored the alien representatives entirely, addressing only the human delegates. "Your design specifications were perfect. Your evolutionary path was monitored. Your conflicts were necessary calibrations." The Thing's voice emerged not from any visible mouth, but directly within the minds of every human present. "You are not soldiers. You are instruments of symphony." Its facets shifted, briefly assuming a form resembling a human conductor before melting back into incomprehensible geometry. And now, the concert begins. When the Concord's highest diplomatic envoy demanded communication, the Herald emissary simply turned its featureless face toward the crystalline being and responded with dismissive finality. "We speak only to our instruments." The patterns manifested first in refugee centers. Aerial footage from Concord monitoring drones showed 50,000 displaced people in the Arizona desert, unconsciously rearranging themselves into massive fractal formations that pulsed with visible energy, perfect mathematical structures that matched the Herald vessel's surface geometries. Similar phenomena emerged worldwide. Children in UNHCR camps hummed synchronized tones that cracked concrete barriers and bent metal security fencing without any apparent effort. Hospital wards overflowed as neural pathways in some humans burned out completely, while others developed sensory abilities that defied medical explanation. Elena watched footage of a 6-year-old boy in Jakarta who could see through walls, not as a parlor trick, but as a fundamental restructuring of how his visual cortex processed information. "The walls aren't solid," he explained to bewildered researchers. "Nothing is. It's all just music that forgot how to move." The Void Heralds broadcast their ultimatum globally 72 hours after arrival. Their message bypassed all communication systems, materializing directly in human minds regardless of language or location. 50,000 volunteers to serve as primary conductors, or we will convert major population centers forcibly. The choice is yours, but the symphony will proceed regardless. Billions watched in horror as the message continued, accompanied by visions of worlds consumed in previous cycles. Your species was designed for greatness. Previous cycles utilized the Centaurians, the Mare, the crystalline Xorians, each serving as instruments of necessary cosmic recalibration. But humans, you are our masterpiece, the culmination of 67 cycles of refinement. Inside a secret Concord research center beneath the Atlantic, a breakthrough occurred that changed everything. A rogue Saurian scientist named Tolvesh, working against her government's evacuation orders, made a discovery while analyzing ancient human genomes recovered from permafrost samples. "Look here," she exclaimed, her crystalline appendage pointing to seemingly junk DNA sequences that human geneticists had dismissed for centuries. "It's a counterpoint embedded within the Herald's engineering, a genetic failsafe inserted by another entity." "Who?" Elena asked, leaning closer to the holographic projection. The aliens' crystalline features shifted to what Elena had learned to recognize as their version of horror. "The only species to ever survive a Herald cycle," Tolvesh whispered. "The Preservers." Meanwhile, civilian volunteers lined up outside Herald processing centers established in major cities. The broadcast showed smiling humans entering obsidian structures. Then nothing, until the first attuned humans returned 3 days later. They emerged transformed. Eyes solid black, movements unnaturally precise, skin bearing faint geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed peripherally. They could disintegrate matter with carefully modulated sounds produced from altered vocal cords. When the Heralds began forcibly harvesting humans who resisted, underground networks formed around people who had learned to control their emerging abilities without surrendering to Herald influence. The Resistance's first glimmer of hope came from an unexpected source: Yuri Lemontov, a concert pianist whose synesthesia allowed him to see the patterns in the Herald's control signals. "They're using us like instruments," he explained to Elena in a bunker beneath the ruins of Paris. "But every instrument can play different music." Former combat neurologist Jackson Chen survived the Herald's systematic elimination of military leadership by playing dead among the smoking ruins of the Pentagon sublevels. His specialized neural implants, experimental technology designed to enhance battlefield awareness, had unexpectedly shielded him from the Herald's mental scanning. He found Elena through the growing resistance network, traversing the devastated eastern seaboard using service tunnels and abandoned subway systems where the Herald's obsidian scouts rarely ventured. "They have blind spots," he explained, spreading hand-drawn maps across a makeshift table in their Paris bunker. "Predictable patterns in their search algorithms that we can exploit." He activated a salvage tablet showing surveillance footage from a Herald purge operation. The obsidian hunters moved with terrifying efficiency through a bombed-out suburb, methodically eliminating all human life, except for a children's choir practice in a half-collapsed church. "They can't track us when we're creating music," Jackson concluded. "Something about the neural patterns disrupts their targeting systems." The Resistance established safe houses built around orchestras, dance troupes, and music schools. Meanwhile, the converted attuned humans hunted the unaltered with relentless precision, their black eyes seeing beyond normal human perception. The Shanghai incident changed everything. During an attack on the city's last functional district, a cellist named Wai Lin continued playing Bach's cello suite No. 1 as buildings crumbled around her. Surveillance footage captured 3 approaching attuned humans freezing mid-stride, their faces contorting in apparent confusion. "We survived long enough for Resistance members to extract her and the precious footage." What followed was brutal experimentation, Resistance members testing different musical compositions against captured attuned, discovering that certain harmonic structures caused them physical pain. "It's like an allergic reaction coded into our DNA," Elena realized, reviewing neurological scans of attuned subjects exposed to specific composers. The Preservers didn't just build in a failsafe, they built in an entire counterattack mechanism. They developed sonic weapons based on specific compositions. Mozart disrupted Herald communication networks, Beethoven interfered with attuned coordination, Bach caused physical pain to Heralds themselves. But implementation proved challenging with limited resources and constant Herald attacks. The final crushing blow came when the Concorde fleet withdrew from Earth orbit. Their parting transmission was brutally clear. Earth was now classified as compromised beyond salvation, and placed under permanent quarantine. Any vessel attempting to leave would be destroyed to prevent Herald contamination from spreading. In their underground command center, Elena watched the last Concorde ships disappear from tracking systems. "We're on our own," she whispered. Jackson's laugh was bitter. "Were we ever anything else?" As resistance cells worldwide prepared for a counteroffensive armed only with instruments and amplifiers, Elena's team raced to decode ancient musical patterns hidden in archaeological sites, cave paintings and stone circles whose arrangements mirrored specific symphonic structures. "These aren't random," Elena explained to the Resistance Council. "They're instructions left by the Preservers, musical sequences engineered to activate their genetic countermeasures." Above them, Herald terraforming engines began boring into Earth's crust, converting the planet's magnetic field into what their intercepted communications called the Final Amplification Array. "We're running out of time," Jackson observed grimly. Elena lifted an ancient clay flute recovered from a Turkish excavation site. "Then we better start practicing." Operation Counterpoint began during a blood-red sunrise as Herald ships descended toward major population centers. Across every continent, carefully positioned speaker arrays activated simultaneously, broadcasting a symphony composed collaboratively by thousands of musicians working in hidden bunkers. The composition incorporated elements from Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven, interwoven with harmonic structures derived from the ancient patterns Elena's team had discovered in archaeological sites worldwide. As the music reverberated through devastated urban centers, the Herald ships faltered mid-descent, their obsidian surfaces rippling with visible instability. In New Delhi, an attuned squad pursuing resistance members collapsed in the streets, black fluid streaming from their eyes as the music penetrated their altered neural pathways. Similar reports flooded in from resistance cells globally. The Herald's biological instruments were vulnerable. "It's working," Jackson breathed, watching satellite feeds in their command center. "But they're already adapting. We need more data from inside their ships." Elena knew he was right. The Resistance had discovered the Herald's weakness, but understanding the full scope of the countermelody embedded in human DNA required access to Herald technology. She volunteered to lead the strike team personally. "Your knowledge is too valuable," Jackson argued. Elena's smile was grim. "That's exactly why it has to be me. I'll recognize patterns you might miss." Taking advantage of the momentary weakness caused by Operation Counterpoint, Elena's strike team, equipped with specialized sonic weapons tuned to specific harmonic frequencies, boarded a disabled Herald scout ship near the ruins of London. Inside, they navigated chambers that defied Euclidean geometry, fighting waves of nausea as internal spaces expanded impossibly. "Stay focused on the music," Elena reminded her team, each member wearing earpieces playing a continuous loop of Bach's Brandenburg concertos, their anchor to human perception as reality warped around them. Deep within the vessel, they discovered what appeared to be a control center, though the interfaces bore no resemblance to human technology. Three-dimensional projections displayed not conquest plans but escape routes, star maps marked with an advancing anomaly that devoured entire systems. "They're running from something," Jackson whispered through her comlink, viewing the feed from Elena's headset. "Using us as shields." In the ship's biological archive, a vast chamber containing thousands of transparent pods filled with suspended specimens, Elena made the final connection. The genetic samples from countless species across millions of years all showed similar engineering patterns. The Void Heralds didn't create humanity, she realized, examining cellular structures that bore telltale markers of deliberate modification. They discovered genetic engineering done by the Preservers and corrupted it for their purposes. Most shocking of all, cellular samples from both Heralds and Preservers revealed they shared fundamental biological structures despite radical differences in expression. "They're evolutionary branches of the same ancient species," Elena whispered. "Two factions of creators locked in eternal conflict." A sudden quake rocked the vessel as the Heralds began to recover from the symphony's assault. The ship's internal structure started regenerating, corridors reshaping themselves to trap the intruders. "Elena, get out now." Jackson's voice crackled through her comm. "We're losing the harmonic advantage." Their escape became a desperate race through shifting architecture, guided only by the distant sound of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony reverberating through the vessel, weakening its regenerative abilities just enough to create an exit path. The Heralds launched their endgame as Elena's team analyzed the data stolen from their ship. Massive terraforming engines bored into Earth's crust at strategic points corresponding to the planet's magnetic nodes. Monitoring equipment showed the engines converting Earth's natural field into something else, an amplification array of planetary scale. The Resistance's musical countermeasures began failing as the Heralds adapted, isolating and capturing key musician cells. What had worked during Operation Counterpoint no longer disrupted their technology or attuned servants. They were evolving faster than humanity could respond. "They're learning from us," Jackson observed grimly, watching defensive positions fall across global displays. "Each musical pattern we deploy becomes ineffective within hours." When the Herald flagship descended on their Paris command center, Elena knew the Resistance's central hub had been compromised. She ordered immediate evacuation, but the Obsidian vessels surrounded the complex before most could escape. Brought before the Herald Archconductor, a towering entity whose form shifted between liquid and crystalline states, Elena experienced forced neural connection that nearly shattered her sanity. The beam bypassed all communication protocols, linking directly to her consciousness. "Witness the necessity of our work," it communicated, flooding her mind with visions spanning eons. Civilizations rising and falling, species engineered then harvested, planets transformed into massive amplification arrays like Earth was becoming. But within this violation, Elena glimpsed what the Heralds themselves feared: a cosmic predator that devoured realities, consuming dimensions, and leaving absolute void in its wake. The Heralds weren't conquerors but refugees, using harvested species to power their desperate flight across the cosmos. More importantly, within the neural link, Elena discovered the Preserver's final gambit. They weren't extinct as the Heralds believed. They had uploaded their collective consciousness, fragmenting it across billions of human minds, hiding in plain sight within the creative impulse itself. Imagination isn't just human, she realized through waves of neural pain. It's them, living through us. The Herald's awakening signal was specifically designed to activate human abilities while suppressing this distributed consciousness, preventing the Preservers from reassembling within human hosts. When the neural connection broke, Elena lay gasping on the obsidian floor, blood trickling from her nose and ears. The Archconductor loomed above her, its shifting form radiating contempt. "You understand nothing," it projected into her mind. "Your species serves a purpose beyond your comprehension." "We're not your instruments," Elena whispered, dragging herself to her knees. "We're their vessels." Racing against planetary destruction, resistance cells implemented Elena's desperate transmission. Synchronized orchestras in hidden bunkers worldwide began performing a complex symphony designed by a collaborative of mathematicians and composers. Music engineered not to attack the Heralds directly, but to awaken the dormant Preserver fragments within human minds. As civilians worldwide spontaneously joined, humming and singing in perfect harmony despite no training, the Herald's control began to falter. Children in refugee camps suddenly understood mathematics beyond human comprehension. Farmers grasped quantum physics intuitively. And in the Herald flagship, Elena stared defiantly at the Archconductor as its form began to destabilize. "We were never your instruments," she declared. "We're your replacement." The Herald mothership erupted in blinding light as humanity's collective consciousness, amplified through billions of synchronized minds, projected a devastating counter-harmony. The symphony that began in resistance bunkers now flowed through every human on Earth, from opera singers to tone-deaf farmers, each adding their unique note to a composition more complex than any single mind could conceive. Inside the flagship, Elena witnessed the Archconductor's crystalline form fracture as the Preserver consciousness awakened fully within her mind. Ancient knowledge flooded her awareness. Memories spanning billions of years, civilizations risen and fallen, the true nature of the cosmic war that had used Earth as its final battleground. Attuned humans collapsed worldwide, their neural connections to the heralds severed by the countermelody. Some died instantly, their altered biology incompatible with the sudden change. Others awakened with full memories of their actions and the horror of what they had nearly helped accomplish. The remaining herald ships scattered in disarray, their million-year harvest cycle broken for the first time in cosmic history. The few that attempted to maintain position were engulfed by focused harmonic waves that unraveled their molecular structure, converting their matter back to base elements. 3 months later, the Concorde fleet returned cautiously, weapons primed, only to find Earth transformed. Massive crystalline structures now connected major cities, constructed through collaborative consciousness projections. Humans communicated through a hybrid of speech and telepathic harmonic resonance, solving previously impossible scientific problems through massive mental collaboration. When the Concorde ambassadors landed, they found not the junior species they had abandoned, but something entirely new, humanity with fully awakened Preserver fragments integrated into their consciousness. "You left us to die," Elena addressed the Thorian High Minister, her voice resonating with multiple harmonic overtones. "Now you return to what?" The crystalline alien's form shifted with uncharacteristic hesitation. "To assess the threat." "There is no threat," Elena replied. "Only evolution." Her neural pathways permanently altered by direct contact with the Herald Archconductor, Elena served as the primary interface between the awakened Preserver knowledge and modern human consciousness. Under her guidance, humanity established the Symphonic Defense Network, billions of minds linked through harmonic resonance, capable of detecting and neutralizing cosmic threats across vast distances. The Concorde was forced to recognize humans, not as junior members but as vital partners in an expanded alliance. Earth became a hub for new forms of consciousness technology that bridged biological limitations, introducing concepts of collaborative awareness that transcended individual species' capabilities. When the first detection of the Herald's ancient enemy appeared at the galaxy's edge, a void that consumed light, matter, and reality itself, it was humanity's harmonized consciousness that formed the first effective barrier, turning destruction into regenerative energy. The former Concorde Supreme Minister, witnessing billions of humans projecting the unified consciousness shield that repaired reality itself, finally understood what the Preservers had known all along. Humanity's greatest power was never its capacity for destruction as the Heralds intended, but its unprecedented ability to transform destruction into creation, the universe's most formidable response to entropy itself. Across Earth, children born after the awakening exhibited abilities beyond even the most optimistic predictions: intuitive understanding of 11-dimensional physics, the capacity to perceive quantum states directly, and most importantly, the ability to see harmony in discord, creation in destruction, connection in isolation. "We were never the Orchestra of Devastation," Elena explained to the assembled Concorde representatives. "We were always meant to be the symphony of preservation."